And there's always going to be parameters along the path. There's always rules and laws we have to work within. Like, I'm in a state, I walk on my legs, I can't go through the earth, I can't fly. There's parameters. Also, there's social parameters. So when you're choosing your path, it's not like you could just choose anything. You have physical parameters and you have social parameters. And that's just how it is for everybody. So you make your best possible choice, given the parameters, then you make your choice. And you're responsible for that choice. You're not responsible for the parameters necessarily. You could be responsible for being in the situation where the parameters exist. Like, you could put yourself in an apartment, so the social parameters would not allow you to, like, I don't know, live in your neighbor's apartment. You're in the same building, but social parameters make it so you can't walk around without clothes on and stuff like that. But you could make choices to put yourself in the woods, and then you could do all the stuff you want. So we're making choices. We need to take responsibility for our actual choices. And every act has power, and every act is the whole act, is the whole thing. When you act with power, you're acting here in the present moment, being fully aware of the next thing, moment to moment, and sustain that for more than 30 minutes. But when we're aware, like, you can get a little bit better at it. Maybe you think the real choice I have is, like, I could get up earlier, I could make that a choice, or I could work later, or I could get a second job. These are the only choices I really have, but really, that's not true. Your choices come down to even taking the next breath. And then as you're walking, where you place your foot. And the choice you make for your foot could be the difference maker even. What if you stepped on a sharp rock? That might change the course of your life. You don't know. You might get an infection. You might end up in a hyperbolic chamber with an infection in your heel. You might meet a nurse and get married. You might do any number of things. Every action you do has a potential to be life-changing. Also, understanding what you actually want. And maybe be open to different ideas on how to get there, or maybe not have a goal in mind. Maybe life would be better lived by going with the flow and just dealing with the action that comes up in your day. Like, not greater love hath no man than this. That's been coming up a lot lately. But take no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And then it goes on to say something like, don't take thought for what you should say next or what you're going to say, Just kind of let the Spirit guide you. Don't take thought for what you shall eat or what you shall drink. Doesn't God take care of the birds and the daisies? Can't you just do the things in the day? Like, find water today, find food today. Can you do that? Is that a better way to live? Is that a more sustainable way to live? That's a radically different way to live than the business model. That's why I think that maybe the reason we can't do Zion, the reason we're not getting it, is because we're not doing it. We do everything else, and that one is like, that one's kind of hard though. That one's like different. That's different than my life. Like, my life doesn't work like that. In my life, I have to go to work. I can't just get food and water and clothes. That's not enough. How am I going to drive my car then? Won't we all die? There's too many of us to live that way. Anyway, we want to do other stuff with our time. We want to watch TV and stuff. If we're not all doing what we're doing, the whole thing, like, it's all built upon each other, giant house of cards. But if we accept love, then when it collapses, it's like, oh, perfect. Now we can start over. Now we can just worry about food, clothing, shelter, just the needs, and take care of our neighbor. Let's look out for our neighbor's needs. Before we move on to our wants, let's look out for our neighbor's needs. We're going to love our neighbor as ourselves. We're going to get our needs. We're not loving our neighbor above ourselves. I could give my neighbor thy last crust of bread, because greater love hath no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. So you could go above and beyond there. You could make choices. You could make any number of choices. You could make an above and beyond choice. You can make just the basement bare requirement choice of love your neighbor as yourself. Literally just love your neighbors as yourself. Do they have their needs met? Food, clothing, shelter, water, air, warmth. Maybe don't choose your wants above your neighbor's needs. You can get your needs met, sure, needs met. But then, it almost seems a little gross to try to get wants when somebody else still has needs. And I think if we're all working on it really hard, we can all figure out a way to get everybody's needs met. If we're acting in love. It's our acts that matter, and our intents. Our intent. Our heart. Where our heart is, there where will our treasure be also, that kind of thing. Don't be a whited sepulchre full of dead men's bones. So we have this life full of parameters. We were all born in a certain way at a certain time. We didn't choose how we were brought in. So there are parameters all the time. But we can choose. Within the parameters, we can still choose. We can choose to refuse.